branches of their result, where from the samples, how they have been developed, what premises has been has been used in developing those viruses and sending them out for diagnostic purposes. So that is an area where our researchers should know the procedure to be followed before they face any problem at the culminating stage of their research, and that would actually delay their studies as well. I think these were the 2 points that I thought that I should share my views.
Building on the same, there is a concept of deemed export, especially in the context of intangible transfer of technology, where the universities are enrolling students from abroad and they are working on certain research projects. Here the responsibility comes on to the universities or the supervisor professors, because then they become the exporters. And in the Export Control Act, there is a clause where it says that the exporter has to determine whether this is a sensitive thing. May not be in the list, but if the exporter is conscious that it's going to be exported and may be used for any military purposes, then they are supposed to apply for a license to the licensing authority. Now this is related with all kinds of technologies, whether they are biochemical or nuclear or other mechanical type of a thing, where it could be used in delivery means. So the point is that the universities, obviously through the awareness and information sharing, they are responsible to see as to what research projects these students, foreign students are working, and is there a possibility of transferring technology intangibly where it can be used in the military field. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much, the Chair, again for giving me some time to talk about another important aspect, and that is ICP, Internal Compliance Program, for which we have issued comprehensive guidelines, and these guidelines have 2 parts. One is related generally to exporters, trade forwarders, etc., and one is specific to academic institutions and research institutions. Setting out the guidelines and the things that are required to be done in order to self-regulate and ensure that the institution and the individual remains compliant with the law, and that is Export Control Act 2004. And we had suggested to the HEC back in 2015, and a mention was made to this earlier as well, about the joint sessions that we have had with HEC, that as a starting point, what they can do is to introduce export authorization certification system, which is common in all the universities abroad. And that authorization certification talks about that the researcher is aware about the dual use side of the things and the exchange of sensitive information, etc. So that is the sort of thing that we have in fact tried to introduce.
First, the second question in fact directed at me was regarding transfer of technology. When states are transferring technology to another state, usually within their export control mechanisms, they integrate a number of risk indicators, and those risk indicators to a degree help them identifying a transfer which might be intended for misuse of technology. For example, the profile of the research institution which is asking for a certain equipment, and the legitimate use or the stated use of that equipment in that state, and the general profile of the state and its activities. So there are mechanisms for that. Then there are mechanisms for post-shipment verification, post-shipment visits as well, and guarantees by the state. So there can be assurances which can be given to states which are providing technology. Having said that, yes, there is a lot of subjectivity in this area, and usually decisions are based on political considerations rather than genuine considerations. The case of US-India nuclear deal is a case in point. So that is why in my comments I underlined the need for having an export control regime for these conventions which were multilaterally negotiated. They need a multilaterally negotiated export control regime where there are mechanisms to address denials which are unjustified. Now, question number 1 regarding policy tools and measures against bioterrorism. I think bioterrorism is a national security threat, and it's not just the Foreign Office which has to deal with it. It's a very broad group of stakeholders which has to deal with it. As far as the Foreign Office is concerned, we are just a focal point for the purposes of BWC. Therein, we are trying our best to get this standalone legislation for the implementation of BWC law, which will have enabling provisions, which will enable the government to issue any set of regulations on biosafety and security, which will all the concerned laboratories and researchers and industries will be required to implement. But that will not be sufficient to guard against the threat of bioterrorism. There is DESTO, which is working on a protective program, and there are other entities like the NIH, which are working on disease surveillance and response. And all of these elements converge to make a holistic response to the threat of bioterrorism.
Having listened to various responses by the respected speakers, my only comment is that there is a basic need of having a coordination and control at particular level. And we have examples in front of us. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There is a CDC in America, there is a Academy of Sciences in China. So on those lines, we should have a central body which should be, say, coordinating and directing research of various labs, various institutions and various universities. So only then we can have a unified and coordinated response at national level. That's all. Thank you.
I think Dr. Zafar has already mentioned, and we have given a program, a mechanism to all the universities, NHECs, for the university to comply.
Thank you. I realize I'm standing between you and lunch. Let me respond to this question that was put to me. I'm no expert on the curriculum of the public health education in Pakistan. However, the sense of public health does convey that the issue of disease surveillance or those aspects are discussed. However, to what extent is something that for us to take away and find out more and perhaps respond to you. But on your other question of India's doctrine of, yes, the doctrine does have a possibility of reserving the right to use chemical or biological weapons. See, both of these conventions to which Pakistan is a state party allows defense legally, defense against such weapons. So that's the preparation that you know, and since you heard lots of issues, and these are all experts who know the intricacies, so they have focused more on gaps, but there's a lot of good stories that come out, and a significant effort has gone into the defense of that. And no state for a long time has used any of these weapons because there's more general abhorrence and non-acceptance of such weapons around the world. So these are some of the questions that came out. But if I was to wrap this session up, there can be I would like to speak for about 90 minutes to you
you and make you wait for lunch. Can't do that. So 3 points, I think, 3 or 4 points. First is that Chemical Weapons Convention set the gold standards on verification, on intrusiveness, on several of those ideas. And inter alia, with all of those other aspects, it kind of brought in some hesitation of the international community to accept those kind of standards for other regimes. Now here's the problem. BWC came earlier than CWC, but verification has been an issue. It's been, BWC is in a midlife crisis. It's been 46 years and it hasn't been able to agree on verification. So it's not going to happen. You need to find a solution while there be not a perfect verification mechanism like the CWC. So that's the main takeaway that I see here in this area. The second thing is a lot of, especially in the national context, a lot of work has gone into this area despite its inadequacies. A lot of procedures exist, a lot of institutions exist. The implementation is less than adequate or less than ideal, let's say that. I've been part of a disease surveillance. I was for some reason asked to speak on disease surveillance several years ago, and I used, it was 2010, and I used the floods in Pakistan as an example to look at those. And I was recalling Cyclone Bola 1970, if some of you will recall that, which is now Bangladesh, and said, one aspect that you see different from there is the relatively less waterborne diseases because there's bottled water now during floods and something like that. So there are angles that come in and they are helpful and they're existing and they're improving. Is that enough? Of course not. So that's the implementation is less than ideal and we need to continuously work for it. Its implementation will always be a process. That will not be the end solution. So continuous working on that. So that's the second point. The third point I've already made, that there is no impetus for verification of BWC, so we need to live with it. And my final point is, and that is something that is my takeaway, because we've heard a lot of anxiety and worries and some somber remarks from the panel as well as from the audience. And we did this, and some of you will recall this, for the review conference, the 7th review conference of BWC, when it was being prepared, Pakistani position was being prepared. There was a working group on life sciences at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and there were experts from every area. I was a member of the group as a policy guy, but there was experts who were technical experts. And we realized one thing. We realized that every person who came out had a good story to tell. And then we said, let's all first tell the good stories to each other and let's bring everyone on the same page on it. So the report, that Pakistani report that went to the 7th review conference proceedings, talked about the challenges, but talked about what all we have done thus far. Dr. Saif, you mentioned the concern about the foreign universities, and you heard some responses. Some 10-15 years ago, I came across this case in which one of the Pakistani universities said, we want to export dead ticks for research to a certain university abroad. But they had that awareness to approach the Foreign Office and ask this question. So, there is that a perfect system? Perhaps not, but there's a lot of things that are happening. And so there are challenges like chemical or biological origin, or challenges of understanding bioethics more, but there are also more reactions to preparedness and response, and they exist. And let me end by referring to this. We would, if the Center for Disease Control in the United States is a gold standard on such research, we don't have this now, but are we in that direction? And there's several ideas that came out, for example, about vaccines. And you will hear Dr. Amir Akram in the next session. With him heading National Institute of Health, I see a lot of hope. He's been a pioneer who's been working on these issues for several years. and bringing in innovation on those areas. And now he has a responsibility to do that. So we really look at you, Amir, for this, and I'll be very eager to hear you what you're going to say in the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, can you now join me? And let me thank you for your patience. For those that wanted to ask questions, especially that gentleman, please ask them over lunch. I could not accommodate you, but please join me in thanking this panel for triggering this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and speakers, for a very interesting session. I would like now to invite our guests for lunch. Lunch break will last for 45 minutes. And please note that senior guests, chairs and speakers will be served at tables, and other guests will be served through buffet. And we shall reassemble for the second and final session for today at 2:45 p.m. Thank you.